welcome to our third art talk for the 24-25 season. It's a little bit more than seasonality here at OC Sports and Entertainment, but gathered with us today are a collection of artists that have been featured in our Arena Corporate Center Suite 110 offices, displaying works of, I would say, prominent women artists through Orange County. And we'll learn a little bit about the three we have with us today. And a curator who's been helping us show these exhibitions here at our offices for the past few months. With that, we are recognizing women in sports and entertainment, and by extension, our greater Orange County community and the artists that drive creativity and innovation. And we're proud to have three of them join us today for our Art Talks. And with that, I want to introduce Kimberly, Allie, Lauren, and our curator, Britt. Welcome all.
Thank you.
Kimberly, can I have you tell us what medium you work in, how long you've been working, I guess, in that medium, or as you shifted over time? Tell us a little bit more about your art journey.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. Um, I primarily work in acrylic and canvas at the moment. I really love the color and the richness of working in the paint and the acrylic. Um, I have played around with different mediums before, multimedia, doing other kind of three-dimensional types of crafts and art. Before this piece, I did a mural on our garage, and I actually really love murals. I think it's probably a competitive landscape given that there's not that many spaces. But right now I'm working with acrylic and it's my favorite. I love it.
I don't know if you noticed, we have a lot of walls going up here, and many of them haven't been spoken for, so maybe we can put a good word in
That
for
would
you.
be wonderful.
Okay.
That would be wonderful.
Will
I love
do.
that.
All right. Speaking of walls, the first wall that we see when we enter our offices, and we haven't had a chance to go over there and show you where your work has been displayed. So, but I do want to tell you, as you walk in our main entrance, or one of our main entrances, the first four photographs I see are yours, Allie, and they are wonderful. And maybe you can talk about your career as a photographer and how that's evolved slightly here, and maybe what is so interesting about those four works that you've shared with us, because there's a little secret in all four, right?
Yes, thank you. I'm a photographer and I shoot digital and film. But with my digital work, I've become more of a self-portrait artist where I photograph myself in all of my art pieces. And I happen to call those chameleon shoots because I'm kind of changing my persona. And this morning, I actually was thinking, well, where was I getting this inspiration from? I mean, artists like Annie Leibovitz, Cindy Sherman, Harry Benson, Richard Avedon. But then I realized it actually goes back to like Martin Short and Rich Hall, Vanishing America, and Martin Short, I go to or Goes Hollywood. And it's the characters that they created that they were just with wigs and costumes and just something bizarre. So I've kind of taken that concept into film and photographing myself with my 300 wigs that I own, costumes, locations. So I get inspired by different concepts, and I just put myself in the camera, in the scene with a little. I photograph myself with a timer, and that's how I create my artwork.
They're great. And the wigs and the props bring so much personality to the images. They're little vignettes, little stories to be unpacked. And we find folks lingering over there, kind of
Oh,
maybe thinking about what is going on with the slightly askew wig and a dangly
yeah.
cigarette. Like
Yeah.
what happened this
It's
weekend?
amazing how they come together and they really there's this whole storyline behind them, and it's fun to have people kind of try to see what story I'm relaying in my images. So it's
Wonderful.
neat. Thanks.
Yeah. Lauren, there are many works to speak of here. And could you tell us a little bit about your work and
Sure.
your evolution as an artist?
Okay. Well, I like to call my style twice mixed media because I have never made anything that I wouldn't turn on its head and do some other way or add something or find something that needs to be there. And for the most part, those things tell me what they want to be. And I really enjoy listening to what has to be made. Um, you can probably tell that I've had some experience. I've had about 10 years teaching art and rolling my little cart from room to room, and all these cool supplies. I'm handing them tooling foil and printmaking and clay and all these things. I'm like, I want to work with all of those things. So those have just been so much fun to finally get my own hands on and work with. I had a 10-year career decorating cakes when my kids were little and painting murals and doing anything I could to keep myself sane while raising them. And so now all of those materials get a chance to take their turn.
I think that cake decorating background definitely is
Yeah, you can see
visible
that in there.
in there. It's incredible, and it's simultaneously like chaotic, but it makes
Yes.
sense. And the way we've gathered that mixed media, and I'll transition here to Britt in a moment, has really kind of brought them together in a way like it's really incredible. So each piece there's so much going on, but collectively
Thank you.
there's even more going on,
Yes.
and it's really amazing to sit in front of those and see all the items you collected and how you've assembled them.
Well, and I'll tell you the centerpiece that's out there, I made about 10 years ago, and just last summer realized, oh, it needs to be beaded, and that's why it wasn't working. So it got about 6 weeks worth of beading
Yeah.
on top of what was there.
Who among us hasn't looked at something and said,
I,
this needs more beads?
I highly recommend it
Right.
if you
It's
haven't.
well, maybe that's the secret. Britt, more beads, right? Okay.
Exactly. Absolutely.
As you think of bringing artists together, I know a little bit of this is tapping into the community, the folks you know, leaning on your network of supporters and other artists to recommend artists. We're so thankful that you've brought 3 of the 5 that represent our office here today. What's your process for when we ask you to curate a show around a theme, this being Women's History Month? You know, what kind of things do you do to kind of live up or to that vision or that initial question that we bring to you?
It's a tedious process. I just really I really enjoy showcasing, even for myself. I have fun doing it. But then I like to give, how can I say this? Not so much because these are all talented people. I'm sure they shown before in other places as well. But I just like to, and me being an artist myself, I just think we should continue to show our work. And so, but picking it is not as easy as people think it is. Some people think it's osmosis, it just shows up on the wall. But it is a process. I would look for different types of art that's represented. So if it catches my eye and that's like I never seen anything like that before, or that story's different or whatever, that's what I want to showcase. And then when you meet them in person, it's like, that's not what I think that's on the wall, but it makes you even that more intriguing. So
Yeah.
that's what I look for.
Lauren, maybe with some of your background being around in the scene for a little bit and different careers, I guess getting straight to it is there's women have been producing art for as long as art has been around. That's not anything new,
Yes.
but being recognized in the field of the arts, is there a special meaning there? And then what do you do to kind of within that network of other creators to lift one another up or to recognize one another? Do you feel like there's a community of women who support each other in the arts within Orange County?
Well, I can say that that's my entire community to a certain extent, is generally speaking, other women approximately my age that I have found that are looking for outlets for creativity. We're kind of a unique group because we're not on the very edges of the scene, and we're not, the young kind of anti-establishment people. So we have to establish our own scene. And I think that's a much more nurturing role for at least my friends in my group. We've been parents, or we've seen a lot and we've done a lot, and we just want to collaborate as opposed to push people away, I think.
Right.
So yes.
Allie, would you agree that there's a little bit of depending on how necessary is that support, or what are you looking for, and how do you engage with other artists, other photographers? I know you mentioned your inspirations here, but what do you do within the county, maybe in this space?
Well, I'm most of my art actually, believe it or not, this is my first showing that I've had.
Mhm.
And so it's really exciting for me because I create all this art for myself and it's actually an expression so I don't end up like doing, like going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It's like I do that and they're like, "Well, your art is what really I'm able to express my anger, my happiness, my excitement, my fear, and that's really how I do it. And even when I'm traveling, for me to slyly pack up some wigs and costumes, whereas my husband doesn't even know about it. And then we're driving back from Vegas, and I go, "Let's stop at Zizek's Road. Got to do
Mm.
this shoot." So I get out and photograph, and I create a piece of art from a concept that I've developed from maybe it might be a few years or even from a few months before that I've just got to find that perfect location. So to me, I think that with women expressing themselves through their art, it's not just to showcase for other people or to connect with
Mhm.
other people, but it's
Mhm.
a very inside thing for me, and it really actually helps me live my life, to the fullest potential. So that's a big, strong impact on me, on myself.
Is there a major difference because photography is your day job as well, right? So,
Yes.
like, is there a major difference between the approach that you have for a client versus the work that you create for yourself?
Yeah, I do have to put a separation to that because with the client, it's to pay my mortgage and to pay my health insurance and to create something beautiful for them. But so far, people enjoy my artwork, but it's still kind of connecting with them to create a piece of art on their wall. Um, of I, I want to encourage, I'm still in that process of encouraging people to commission, say, yeah, no, you can put on a wig and I will create art of you, just like I'm doing for myself. But many people also, they're very insecure as to actually taking that step and leap, like I've actually learned to do. I just, throw on a wig in the middle of a public place and not be concerned.
Mhm.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Love
Yeah.
it. Kimberly, is there a separation for your day and let's say creative outlets, or is it kind of just one and the same for you?
I would say it's kind of enmeshed right now because I don't have a day job. My day job is my household and by extension, my children.
Mhm.
And so I have found a lot of creative outlets through my children and through support of other women, and so it's kind of all enmeshed together. But I did want to jump on what Ali was saying about it being some form of therapy. And I have found one of the pieces that I worked on recently was processing some traumatic experiences. And I actually have thought about in the back of my head, we all have these projects that, may take several years down the road of putting together my own kind of art show that would allow people to display art that processes traumatic experiences or anxieties. And I feel I was actually even thinking maybe of doing it anonymously as a way to allow people, it's not so much as this is me and who I am, but more just letting them go through the process of thinking about these experiences. And I think that a lot of it is that of trying to put down some of your thoughts and feelings. So it is very personal as well.
And I think you can pick that up in the pieces that we have here. I think between the three of you, there is something that feels deeply personal if you sit and linger again with the work. Obviously, the sense of humor, or whether it's your background, or it is processing some emotion. Do you feel like, and I want to touch on the idea of motherhood, does that ever emerge in your work? And have you worked through, what it is to be a mom and an artist and have that come out in your art?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is a big part of my identity now. And so it does play, I think, a big part of just my emotions and my approach and my view of the world and of things now. So absolutely. Yeah.
And I think a little bit of that is modeling, obviously for your children, and maybe Lauren, even in the
Yeah.
classroom or in the workshops. Like,
Mhm.
how big or how much, and this is maybe for the group, does it like, is it to you to make sure that you're passing on or you're inspiring another generation of creators and especially maybe girls out there?
Well, I'll jump in there
Yeah.
because one thing that happened as I was teaching is I found this core group of messages. I saw 150 kids a day, 3 times a week. So almost 500 kids a week. And I kept seeing the same archetypes of students. And, a lot of girls are very afraid to put a mark on a page. And so I kept hearing the message, trust yourself. And I must have said it
Mhm.
100 times a day. And finally, after 7 sketchbooks full of ideas that were just banging on my head to get out, I finally had to say, trust yourself, like stop and make the things that have to be made. And funny enough, a lot of them are these ageless, faceless goddesses that just, they're not religious, or maybe they're entirely religious, I'm not sure, but they keep showing up. And I think something to do with that is just the idea that, females have been creation since the beginning of time. They're responsible for creation, and we manifest that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I want to jump in a little bit too. I do a little bit of art teaching as well through my kids' school, and I do find a lot of the girls um they tend to be more perfectionists
Perfectionists.
than the boys,
Mm.
and it is a little bit of, letting go and letting yourself be imperfect and just trying and trust the process is something that I
Right.
say. Trust the process, it will come out in the end. But yeah, that is something that I think that girls struggle with a little bit, is that idea of needing to be
Yes.
perfect and not being willing to just try and live in the moment and fail or not.
If I can add, just
Please.
because, another part of that to me is sort of equalizing art for everyone. And I
Mm.
know this is primarily about women, but there are plenty of boys out there who don't feel like creativity and that kind of tapping into their own instinct and softness is acceptable, or whatever message they want to say. And I think it's so important for every child to be able to start that process young, so that
100%.
as they grow up, they're able to tap into their feelings and to relate to each other and to express.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, we what I love about this current exhibition is I know we have a group of artists gathered, as women in arts. But I think if you go and look at your individual exhibitions, I think there's something to be found for everybody who walks by there, both men and women, which is
Mhm.
particularly wonderful about the collection that we have. So thank you for that, and
Mhm.
thank you for that, Britt,
Of
because
course.
maybe talk about a little bit of your process. You have a collection of artists, but then you have to display them around the
Mhm.
office. And what is your mindset when you think about the best way to put this in front of folks? And then given our space, it's not the sexiest environment.
No,
The
it's
office
not.
is. I get it. We're not the Museum of Modern Art, but there's some sort of strategy and thought that
There
you put
is.
into it.
It's a process, and I know I drive my George crazy sometimes because we put stuff up and we take it down. But I just wanted to tell a story, just like anywhere else, and I wanted to flow, and I want to showcase them properly. Like, you know, again, I grew up in museums. That was one of the things I used to love doing, and I still love going, and just seeing how one picture on that wall and nothing else can be so impactful. So, and that's why I pick certain artists too. Like, I can't see this in this environment, maybe somewhere else, but I knew what was here, how the walls work here. And this is why these certain artists are here. So, it's a privilege. No, I'm just kidding.
It
I'm just
is.
kidding.
And I feel like it's a heavy responsibility for
It's a
you to bring it together.
responsibility
Absolutely.
because it's not just for me. I love everything I picked, but I gotta make sure the viewers here are happy as well. So it's very, it can be stressful, but I love what I do.
Well, I think you've done a great job.
Thank
You're 2
you,
for 2.
thank you.
It's great.
I appreciate it.
Um, One of the things that we're trying to achieve with the art in such a, maybe inglamorous place is localizing art, bringing it to
Mhm.
us. And maybe Ali, I'll start with you, and maybe you can talk about the importance of bringing art into, making it more accessible, I guess is the point
Mhm.
of what we're trying to achieve with this exhibition. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Oh, I think because I think that with art, something that it happens to me when I go into a little museum. It might be in like, Virginia, in a little town where they've got an eclectic house that's full of art, or it could be going to, Paris and going to a museum there, is I just get this energy and this excitement,
Mhm.
and you get stimulated, and you're just like, one thing may trigger something
Mhm.
incredible in you, and it could relate to something else. So I think it's just all positive. It's
Mhm.
like, um there's so much going on bad in this world, and so much that's on your phone, and to actually able to see something that's printed or created, something
Mhm.
physical, is something that we have to hold on to, and it's up to us as the artist and the people putting on the art shows
Mhm.
and the buildings and the corporations to say we need this art. And I think that's very important for the future of where we're going in life.
Absolutely. Kimberly, would you agree?
Okay.
I
Yes,
saw you
I was.
nodding over there.
Yeah, I think a point that she made about we're always on our phones. I think, and one of the things that I try to tell the kids when teaching an art lesson is sometimes when you look at art, it's like a puzzle. You're trying to figure out, what's the message that the artist was trying to tell you, or what do the colors mean, or where is your eye going? And I think that it's like critical thinking. I think it's so important for us to have that and process it, not only for ourselves, but think about it critically. What were the artists trying to tell us? And I love that. I think that sometimes having art in museums, although I love museums as well, is sometimes museums can feel inaccessible for some people. And so I think having it around just enmeshes it in our daily lives. And I think it's a wonderful thing.
Mhm.
The more you see it, the murals everywhere, the more you see things, I think it just makes everything feel happier and
Mhm.
connected. And yeah.
Yeah. It's for us, one of the things was to obviously platform and bring awareness about artists in the county. But the second part, and I would agree with both of your statements, there's something transitive about art, right? And that you can bring with you into your own spaces. That doesn't necessarily have to mean you're creating or replicating what they've all seen, but you're injected with that spirit, that energy,
Mhm.
that creativity, whether you choose to bring it to your spreadsheets. I don't know if that happens, but
Mhm.
I feel like you do get a boost from it, and I wonder, Lauren, if you've noticed that during your tenure. And I'm going to go back to you on kind of a little bit of the education front, as you
Sure.
see the effects of access to the arts in other parts of your students' lives.
I think that art is in front of us every day. And a lot of people say to me, "Oh, well, I'm not an artist." And I've also taught adults. I've taught everywhere from 3 years old till, you know, in the 80s. And if they say, "Oh, I'm not an artist," I said, "Well, who dressed you this morning?
Mm.
Did someone dress you? Because you chose your shirt, you chose your pants, you chose the color on the walls, you chose everything." And so when we look around, I don't even think we would know a world without art. It's everywhere. It has to be accessible. And this is my favorite type of display. I would much rather be somewhere where people can just walk by and enjoy it than have to go to a specific place. And that also to me creates a certain label and expectation on the
Mhm.
art that it doesn't have to have
Mhm.
when it's there for people to absorb. I think there's something really critical, as you both said, about um, the beauty of art right now and just having a place for your eye to rest that's pleasant or
Mhm.
interesting. And it doesn't mean there's not a message there, but there's something else that you can enjoy, that is really fleeting and we need to have more of it.
Mhm.
So,
And
Especially in Orange County.
yeah,
yes.
yes.
Okay.
And for both sides. Well, I thank you for setting me up, because I think
Mhm.
one of the pillars and centerpieces of our project, if I could put a plug in for this OC Vibe Entertainment District, is there is going to be immersive, interactive, um, prevalent art everywhere. I know it's
Mhm.
something that's really going to guide the experience of the guests that come on to the campus, and it's something that we are we think very deeply about, because we know the power of it, right? And how it shapes not only your thoughts, but your experience that you have at that time. And it can really set the mood and the tone for what could hopefully is a great night every time you come here. But I do, maybe as a pivot off that question, Brett, and I'll start with you, and then maybe we go down the line. In the spirit of local art and talking about where folks can find it, I wonder if there's um, anybody or any place you'd like to share with us that outside of our suite, outside of our offices, that you can direct people and tell people that, like, where should our staff, where should the folks that watch this video go find art locally here in Orange County?
Well, I can, not to toot my own horn,
Toot it.
I curate art at the Anaheim Hilton,
Mhm.
Hilton Anaheim. I'm sorry, Hilton Anaheim, which is right across the street from Disneyland. Which I've been kind of like the same concept that we're doing here. We I curate a show almost every other month. um, we're starting to do a photography show, and we started off there in at the hotel for Juneteenth of last year. So they're really supportive of the arts. And with my organization, OCAG, I'm trying to get art just even to smaller venues. I have art in a wine shop in Orange now. So it's just, I'm trying to just push it out everywhere, basically,
So
in Orange County.
if you need somebody to curate, you know who to call. It's Brett
Absolutely.
Samuels. Lauren, Lauren, how about yourself? Is there what's a spot that you like to visit, or
Well,
somebody you know?
currently, I'm madly in love with the Hilbert Museum,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of us know of it. But it's so generous. That's all I can say. Every time I walk in, there's just you're practically overwhelmed with the body of work and the history of it and the history of the area. And I have to go back several times just to absorb it all. It's so much.
Right. And if you're a fan of those savings and loans,
Oh,
mosaic
I
tiles they
am a
have,
wild fan of that.
and Millard sheets, right?
Yes, of
Incredible.
preserving all kinds of beautiful things that might have been thrown away. I just love that.
Okay.
So,
Hilton Anaheim, Hilbert, Allie.
All right, so I'm gonna. There's a place called is it the Anti Mall? That's not the
The
camp.
lab.
yes.
The lab
Mhm.
over in Costa Mesa off Bristol. I went there
Mhm.
with my son, doing some prom, whatever, a spring photo, winter photo, just some photos of him and his girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is it. I mean, whether it be just a wall of CDs or,
Mhm.
their bar there, that just the grungy art
The
is, I
oil
love that.
bins,
Where
yeah.
you can just, someone's making art out of trash or out of just something
Mhm.
eclectic. It just, that's amazing to me too.
And it's been around for 20, 25 years, and people are still
Mhm.
discovering it. So
Yeah.
that's the power of just exploring your community and
Yeah.
going new places, and I guess looking at it differently.
Exactly.
Yeah, love it.
exactly.
Kimberly, how about you?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I
knew
narrow
this
it
was
down
coming
as
to
much you
me.
can. Okay.
I know. I was like, oh no. Yeah, I don't know if I have a specific place or recommendation. I mean, again, I'm kind of fixated on murals. I love driving around, and you'll find them in the most random locations, the side of parking garages or car lots. So I think, and even the electrical panels, I think it's just fun to find it where it's least expected and maybe even most needed. So yeah, just driving around.
Is there a community that you think of that you like to go and find those murals in? Is there places like that you'll, kind of deviate to?
I wouldn't not off the top of my head.
I know we have a rich history of like Chicano muralists around in Santa
Yes.
Ana and
Yeah,
Anaheim.
I mean that's what
right?
I'm thinking about Santa
Yeah.
Ana in particular. I feel
Right.
like they've really done such a good job highlighting artists, but hopefully Anaheim is
Mhm.
becoming a hot spot as well.
Yeah. Well,
So
we hope to contribute to that.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, Thank you all so much for this wonderful conversation. We're really so honored to have your works hanging up in the office. They're incredible. And like I said, it's been really fun to catch folks lingering over your pieces and just examining them and looking at the details, whether, like Ali, you mentioned, like that you don't get from your phone, right? And Kimberly, you said, like, you have to kind of see why you chose to mount it that way or put it, in glass, or the one piece of bead that had to go exactly
Yeah.
where it was always intended to be. So,
That's where it told me it wanted to be.
right? I love it. I love it. And I'm going to look at
That's
it
me.
differently now too, now that I've had this conversation with you. And Brett, we're eternally grateful for your
Oh, thank
curation
you
and your
for having
vision
me.
and your partnership here.
I
Thank you so much
appreciate it.
for bringing us such
Yeah.
talented folks.
Thank you.
And with that, thank you for the conversation, and we'll end our art talk.